Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom, serving in some of the harshest situations to secure that freedom across the globe. This is the Lounge with Legends show, celebrating their transformation from battlefield to business. The Lounge with Legends show with Marty the Moac Martinez and James A. Phelps, a.k.a. Spartan 6.
You didn't catch me this time.
I did not catch you this time.
What is ready.
It's this is episode 23, season 2, episode 23. This is great. And unfortunately my background looks different.
Wait, where are you?
I'm in a hotel. I'm working hard. If my wife was watching, I'm working very hard right now.
So this is a second trip to Florida within a matter of 2 weeks.
Yes, and then I'll be back in another week in Florida as well. So Florida loves me, keeps calling me. But we're here for
slacking off. I don't think you're working. I think you've been at the pool. You don't have to lie to us. We know.
No, I'm down here with powerful professionals. We just did 2 days with Kim Walsh-Phillips. She was on earlier this season. And remember, if you guys remember, we did the pitch to Kevin O'Leary. Thanks to Kim Walsh-Phillips for allowing us to pitch to a shark, our business, Joint Task Force 214. So yeah, I just spent the last 2 days with everybody. It's so amazing to be back with people in real life without masks, looking like a bunch of ninjas running around or with
what's wrong with a damn ninja? Don't be picking on ninjas.
Nothing wrong with ninjas. No offense to the ninjas out there. So no, absolutely. It's been amazing. They're continuing on for another 2 days, but it's been awesome. And then I was kind of upset. I'm going to share this with you guys. So everybody knows that James and I have a competition about books that we have. And so Kim wrote this book with Dan Kennedy. And last night I said, Kim, do me a favor. Here's my book. Will you sign it? And she said, absolutely. And she wrote, to Marty, the best legend. What you're doing for veterans is absolutely needed. And I was like, yes, James is going to be so bad that he doesn't have it. So then what does she do? Because she's such a sweetheart. She says, no, James is going to have one too, because he can't be here because of COVID. And then she signed it. I'm just glad she didn't say to Marty's boss, James, but she signed it for James. So thanks for Kim and all she was doing. And, you know, as a military spouse of a Marine Corps veteran, she's just absolutely amazing. It was a great week. But enough about that. This week, I'm super excited because we got a legend coming on today, and I'm gonna do my best not to call him Sergeant Major. I know he's gonna smoke me if I do, but I will try my very best. I hope you do, because I'm gonna put it up right here, because Mike will get after you, because he's all about the transitions, and that'll be one of the things we talk about. But Mike and I, we've been following each other and playing tag at AUSA, and for about 3 years, I think we were talking about. So this is going to be absolutely amazing. And it falls in line with what we talk about as we celebrate veteran success in the transition and transformation from battlefield to business. This guy has been doing it. He's a LinkedIn top voice. He contributes to Forbes magazine. He really gets at what's going on, how people do this successfully and without feeling like that scene in Elf where he's just handing out, instead of handing out all the resumes to everybody, he talks about this all the time and how to do it professionally and resonate with people on the other side of the table. Right.
They're always moving forward. They have 341,108 followers on LinkedIn alone. Did you know that?
I did not. I feel like I should.
I just told you that. Dang. I just brought some knowledge to the table.
There you go. So I'm going to bring them on. We've got our Podfest people, our Podfest family coming in. We got Mike Quinn saying hello to everybody already. He's in the back room, but let's go ahead. Let's bring him on right now. Are you ready?
Let's go.
There it is. Even in Florida, it messes up. We want to get him out of here. We on the legend, Mike Quinn. Go ahead. Get out of your system, James.
Sergeant Major, that'll be the last time I call you Sergeant Major during the call because I know you're going to smoke me now that I do call you that. But anyway, sorry.
No worries. It's what I used to be, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
but I know how it is. I know that, it's a sign of respect when I call you that. If I slip up again, I apologize now up front.
I'll do that roar like you guys have at the end of the.
There you go.
No, thanks for having me, guys. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, like I said, we've been playing with this for a while, trying to get you on the show and just getting us linked up. The closest we were when we were at BurBiz with Scott Davidson, and that was where James was chasing you for your autograph, is what he said in the green room.
I was. That, to be transparent, I was. It did not work. I didn't get an autograph, but it's all good. It's all good.
Anybody that wants my autograph probably has better things to be doing. I'll put it that way. But it was great to meet you guys there. Scott Davidson, the BurBiz events, I can't say enough goodness about them. I've been to them here and I've been to them in Vegas, and both times were amazing experiences and free to veterans. So, you just can't beat it.
You can't. And again, it is, God, it's such an amazing environment. It's one of those things where, and this, as we get out, we kind of lose our family, lose our tribe a little bit. And so have these little events was amazing. And I think we also met way before COVID, like at a Bar Louie event. You were running those. And I was like, man, this is amazing. And they were so packed in there. We're in there. And like, I literally had just hopped off the metro, hopped in. I'm still like sweating and bagged. And I'm like, these are my people.
Yeah.
Was that one of your early events, or were you talking?
Yeah, that was when, so I was at EY. I was working right around the corner. So after work, I'd go over there and just host a Friday happy hour and just put it out on LinkedIn. We'd have 70, 80, 90, 100 people show up. People from industry, a few life insurance salespeople, and then a lot of veterans would come, and we would all just have drinks. And I would give people name tags based on whether they were like a job seeker or not a job seeker, just so people could like kind of tell. And then I would walk around and look for groups of job seekers only talking to themselves and break them up, in Sergeant Major fashion. There was some of the holdovers of that. So I know you'd appreciate that.
I'm at parade rest right now.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely amazing. DJ saying, hi, Mike. Nice to meet you. DJ's also, she's the host of the Silver Fox talk show. She's got an amazing podcast. And so we met at Podfest as well. And it was just a bunch of veterans and family members just hanging out. Again, our tribe running around thick as thieves all over Podfest. But let's back it up. Let's talk about your call to serve. What is it? Is it the family business? Was it go to war, go to jail? Was it just do something?
It was the original Top Gun.
Get out of here.
No kidding. Like the original Top Gun. But here's the funny part. I didn't realize it was the Navy. I thought it was the Air Force. So, I went to college. I'd always watched Top Gun. I wanted to be a pilot. I wore contact lenses. I made an appointment. I made like an actual appointment to go talk to the Air Force, like to the recruiting station. And when I showed up like 20 minutes early and I took the bus to get there, Like 20 minutes early, I showed up at the Air Force Station and it was closed. No one showed up. And my eventual Army recruiter was standing out, like they're right next to each other, was standing out front smoking a cigarette. And he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I have an appointment with the Air Force." He goes, "They're not here. Like, they're bowling." And I'm like, "You're crazy. I have an appointment." And he's like, "Why don't you come in and talk to me?" I'm like, no, I know how this works. You know, it's all scam or whatever. You're trying to get me in there. And so I sat there, and 10 minutes after my appointment time, the guy poked his head out and was like, "You're still out here? Like, I told you, they're bowling. They're not coming. Why don't you come in and talk to me? You don't have to sign anything. Like, just come in and chat." And I did. And, you know, we went through the different branches and everything and hit on military intelligence. And I was like, that sounds interesting. And then went through the different jobs and hit on counterintelligence. And I was like, well, that really sounds interesting as well. And that was it. Like, I went to the MEP station, and really it was all based on, I went to a year of college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I wanted to see the world, get some professionalism, you know, maybe learn a trade, you know, get money for college, the basic stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I ended up joining the Army for a 5-year enlistment. I was getting out at 5.
Yep.
And then at 4 and change, I was like, well, the market really sucks in the late 90s, right? I didn't have a bachelor's degree, so I said I'll stay in for my degree. And then each time they offered me something that kept me in, till the point was, you know, at about the 12-year mark, I was like, they'd switched to the indefinite, and I was in. And to be quite honest, I was planning on doing 30 or more. But at 23 years, I had the list of assignments. They said, you get first choice, and brought it home to my former spouse. And she said, yeah, I'm not moving. And so that was it. I have 2 small kids, you know, like I wasn't going to be a geo bachelor and not see my kids for the next 7-8 years. And I had to make a choice. I was in the DC area. And I realized there'd be no better time to get out than here. I mean, 7 years from there, I might be getting out from, you know, Fort Polk.
Right.
You know, or Korea, as I used to be a Korean linguist, right. You know, so it made sense to me. And all I was going to be was an older sergeant major. Like, once you're like, there's no telling where I'd end up. So that's what got me out. And that's what got me into the LinkedIn, everything else.
So, yeah, we're seeing that. That's a common theme. Here's Mike Coy saying, you know, same thing, you know, that was my plan. I got out of the Army and I was like, FTA, you know, I'm done with this. And then I'm in college and I'm like, will you take me back? And then I came in, and 28 years later, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
But this recruiter sounded like he was quite wily. Was his name Donnell Johns?
No, but I know Donnell. Yeah. No, I don't think Donnell actually smokes though. So that does he?
He would have for a contract.
Back then,
he would have came out and pulled out a cigarette just to fake it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's awesome. And you know, and it's funny too, because like the Army, we always pride ourselves, and we got more things that fly, more things that float than any other service.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it. And it's true. You can say, oh, you want to fly? We got more things that fly over here. Come on over. We can do this.
Right.
And because I mean, I remember that was like the big pitch in ROTC, bringing in cadets. I mean, that's honestly one of the ways they got me in was, why do you have to take a full workload? Come on, you can take some of these freshman ROTC classes. You're already you're prior military. They're going to be easy. I'm like, okay.
So now we know how your GPA really got skewed. Thank you for sharing that with the world.
Oh,
I always knew that you were a 2.0.
Everybody knows that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's true. When I was your boss, I remember looking at your GPA because I think the CO asked for a copy of your transcripts. I remember seeing your poor transcripts.
Yeah, here's Nick talking about we have cookies.
Oh gosh, I still owe Nick a hat. I apologize. He's gonna send me his address. That's the problem.
Yeah, and we'll deliver Mike a hat or a shirt from Lounge with Legends next time we link up. But
sure.
No, so that's fascinating. So favorite assignment and worst assignment?
I had a blessed career. 20 and some people are going to go like, what? 24 years I was never in force com.
Really?
Wow.
So
Well,
I
I
spent
guess,
my
yeah.
whole career in INSCOM, almost my whole career in INSCOM.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, I spent 18 years of my career overseas. Germany, Korea, Japan. My command sergeant major time was at Camp Zama, Japan, on the outskirts of Tokyo. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I spent a year and a half in Monterey, California. I spent 6 years in Hawaii, traveling throughout the Pacific. I don't have a favorite, and I don't have a least favorite, because every assignment is what I made it.
Right.
Once I got to a certain rank, I was in charge, and if the assignment sucked, it was on me.
It was
right.
your fault. Yeah, you're right.
Right. So, I can't say. I mean, I worked for President Obama for a year while I was the J2 for the White House Communications Agency. I worked at DIA. My last job, I was the G3 Sergeant Major for INSCOM, which was like a dream come true, having spent all that time in INSCOM, literally having been in almost every INSCOM unit. When people would say stuff, it'd be like, no, that's not really true. So I had a blessed career, and deployments, even the deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Gitmo, Philippines, like, they all were incredible missions. So, no real favorite. I don't know if it's a boring answer.
No, it's a unique answer, because we all have this. Like, my worst assignment was, and it wasn't even an assignment, it was just 7 days, and those are the 7 days that James was my boss.
I was going to say those were my best days, but thank you. Yes. What about, Mike, you talked about being in I noticed that you said the Korean linguist part. What about as far as foods and stuff? Is there any foods that you really enjoyed when you were deployed in throughout Europe or Asia?
Oh, well, okay. So foods, now we get into food. So I was a Korean linguist. I went from DLI to Korea. I went to college there. Did not initially like kimchi, but as I got older, my taste buds changed, and I love kimchi now. Right. So Korean food, I love Korean food. Things that are rough on me, anything spicy. Now, I can eat it, I enjoy it, but it's like a sprinkler turns on at the top of my head if it's spicier than ketchup. And I was at an event last week where I ate some wings that weren't super spicy, and everybody started laughing. It's because about 8 months ago I shaved my head, and so there's no hair to catch it. So it just like beads up. So that Philippines, I could not do balut. Could not. I looked at him and I was like, oh. And my job was to make friends and eat what they ate. But I was like, I can't do balut. And then in Iraq, when I was in the green zone, I got like super sick eating local food, and like I can't eat hummus anymore because that was a big part. Like hummus, baba ganoush, like the bread, and then what? I don't know where that meat came from, and I think that's probably what it was. But the hummus gets the blame. So like I'm talking about, there's nothing worth it. We're going to be honest here. There is nothing worse than summer in Iraq, getting sick, full battle rattle in a porta potty. I mean, like take me to the hospital sick. I literally had to like open the door and I fell out. And thankfully my soldiers found me and were like, we got to get you to the hospital. I'm like, that was that. So like, but the assignments were amazing. It's just like there's little bits of food issues when you eat everywhere in the world.
Yep.
So.
Oh man.
Ooh. Yeah, the Iraqi food, I loved it. We had so many great experiences, and I was eating literally like 3 meals a day with the Iraqis, just because that was my job. I loved it at JSS. I was the lead negotiator. And so a lot of that is about breaking bread and having cups of chai and all this. And so I would get sick and it'd be like, oh, I'm just going to get sick this week. And then, but I got so sick one time, and it was like, I literally I made it back into the CP. Medics gave me an IV, and then they're like, "Good night, sir." I'm like, "Good night." What do you? I was done. But I passed out like in the middle. We didn't have desks early in the war. We didn't have any tables or any furniture inside the palace that we were in. And so I come to, and they're like basically using me as the table, and they've got like the notes on top of me. I was like, "First Sergeant, you're a jerk." He was my old platoon sergeant, so we had this little back and forth going back, but it was hilarious because I was like, that was like the sickest that I ever was, though. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it's pretty bad. And then we got James Jones in here saying he still can't stand porta potties to this day. Something about the smell, and if it's really hot, that you talk about triggering PTS.
It's not pleasant. So
yeah. So one other thing, we had a great conversation when we were in the green room before the show started about, you would assume retired sergeant major, HireMilitary CEO, very extroverted person. But you told us an interesting fact that I think that would be awesome if you could share, if you don't mind sharing, about how you actually were when you were growing up and before you went into the Army, and give us a story about how you came out, because I thought that was so interesting and became this, Mike Quinn now.
And you've got to understand is that you can control when you're out there nowadays, right? You can control when you go on a podcast, you can control the environment, how long you engage, everything else like that. When you go to an event, you can kind of control it. But and especially with my LinkedIn presence, I control what I want to share, when I want to share, how often I want to share. So, but I share with people that, and people that know me from, my first 20 years of my life know that I was incredibly shy and introverted. I was the guy that had I literally always had a book in my hand on the bus so that I didn't have to look at people. I was so shy. And I had my small group of friends that I would open up and feel comfortable with. But that was really it. And so what I tell people is that the Army broke me in a good way. And what I mean by that, I joined the Army. I became a counterintelligence agent. I went to my first duty station in Hanau, Germany, in a field office there. And they had a requirement to teach the most boring class ever, like worse than the cyber awareness training that everyone has to go through multiple times. It was called SAIDA, Subversion and Espionage Direct Against the Army. And it was an hour-long class that was mandatory for every soldier in the Army. And so like once or twice a week, I had a standing class in the auditorium, and like first sergeants would file their soldiers in to sit in, take attendance, and check, I'd sign a list or whatever on the back end. And I told the office that I was terrified of public speaking, that I didn't like doing it. I wasn't good at it. And they were like, listen, Private, none of us like it either, but you're the most junior person. They could do this in the early 90s, right? So early mid 90s, they're like, yeah, I don't care. I mean, we just gotten past the point where they weren't allowed to have 2 beers at lunch. Like that had just stopped. So like, we don't care that you don't like to do it. It's your job. Go do it.
Right.
And so I did it, and every session just drenched. And I was in a suit and tie. Young Private Quinn was a special agent, right? So that doesn't help any. Suit and tie on the stage, 60 minutes of reading slides to hundreds of people. And it was every week until eventually I stopped sweating so much, stopped freaking out. And then I started paying attention to the crowd. I'm like looking at people sleeping, and I'm like, oh, you MFers, like if I'm torturing myself to get up here, you're going to get something out of it. And so I started, I didn't even tell people I was doing this because of course they never came to watch it. So I started changing the slides. I started changing my briefing style. I started picking on people in the crowd that were dozing off and asking them questions, and all their friends would go like, oh, we better pay attention. He might call on us. And I started telling jokes and engaging. And so we turned a weakness into a strength. And we talk about my LinkedIn presence, my brand on LinkedIn and everything else like that. But the people that know me and work with me say, hey, like you're great at LinkedIn, you're great at networking, all this stuff, but your superpower is public speaking. Like your ability to grab an audience, to keep them engaged, to talk to them and have everybody sitting on the front of their seat. Like They tell me that's my strength. So it's really, I wouldn't be where I was today without those mean bosses in Hanau, Germany. So thank you to them. And you never know. I talk to a lot of people that say, I can't network. I'm introverted. I can't. And I'm like, you don't have a choice, right? So if you are severely introverted, if you've got issues connecting with people or whatever, you've got to put yourself in an environment where you can do it in a functional manner, right? And the beauty about this, and the beauty about Zoom, and the beauty about phone calls and social media is that you could share when and what you want to share. You can control the message, you control what you're saying, you control who you speak with, you control when you speak to them, right? You control the environment around you when you're speaking to them, you control how much prep you put into those meetings, right? So, you know, I when people say I can't do it, I'm like, that's a cop-out. And, you know, like, you're going to get what you get, right? Best of luck. I wish you the best. You just have to realize that in today's world, both in the military, because you guys get this, like, you're a large part of your success in the military is who knows you.
Yeah.
And I've sat in senior leader meetings where they write the list of everybody in that CMF, and they take out the ones they don't know, because obviously they don't care enough to network. And then they start putting people in assignments, selecting people for jobs, the best jobs. And then the people that are left get what's left.
Right.
It's the same thing out here, right? Your business, you know, they could choose anybody to support their marketing efforts. They choose you guys because there's relationships and trust, right? They could choose anybody to help them hire veterans. They choose us because of relationship and trust, not just with me, but with my company and my team members, right? The list goes down and down. We have so many options on these. Right. You can Google anything. Yep. You know, you can find there's multiple candidates for every role. We make decisions based on relationships and trust, and that trust comes from your community, and that's really what it's all about. How do you build your community that's going to be mutually beneficial? It's going to be a supportive community. So sorry, that was a long, answer to the question.
Perfect. I mean, that's a much needed advice that, and experience to tell people, because most people, especially when we transition out of the military, you got to be your advocate. No one else is going to advocate for you unless you advocate for yourself. So it's very important to get out there. Marty's an expert. I give him too much credit. I hate it when I do this, but he planned his egress out of the military. He planned his transition. Mm-hmm. He networked for years prior to going out. Unlike others, I would just like, okay, let me take the path of least resistance. And that's what I did. And we'll talk about it. This show's not about me, so we won't talk about that, thank God. But, that's great advice. Amazing advice. That's huge.
No, it's one of those things. And that's what I tell people is, it was exhausting. I was the proponent officer for all of FA-57 model and sims, but I was so tired, but then I would still go in to meet with people like Mike and Bar Louie, and change out of BDUs or whatever the heck we call them now, multicams, and go put on a suit and just look presentable and meet people before I hop back onto the metro and finish up my red line trip, and you have to invest, you have to strategize and figure it out. And then, so here's something real quick I want to ask. So we were at PodFest, and I was a speaker, but then they also had this other thing, extrovert, and you could select whether you were an extrovert, an introvert, or an ambivert. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then at the other time, I'm like, wait, what's the purpose of this? Are we giving people a way out? Don't talk to me, or don't approach them too much. Don't come on too strong. It was kind of one of those things. I was like, interesting. Like, I got this. If I chose this, that means, I'm not that worried about COVID. I'm wearing a blue one. You can come, we can talk, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the different color of these were based on your COVID status. But then we had these, and I was like, it was actually well designed from that perspective. But this one, I was like, that's interesting. What do you think, as someone who's a master network? labeling yourself as a intro, is that an unfair question first?
Yeah, I mean, so you always got to be careful in today's world when you start marginalizing anybody for anything. I think that there is some kind of like that's somebody trying to be inclusive to everybody, right? Because some people need to attend those events, but need to not also be swarmed, right? So there's value in that. And you know, the only people that would pick introvert are the people that really want to be there and pick and choose who they talk to. And I can understand that. Yeah. But there also shouldn't be two choices we talked about. Like it shouldn't just be introvert and extrovert because there's an ambivert or omnivert or I don't know, like.
Yeah, so there was the three.
Are you an ambivert as a vegetarian or I mean, like, I don't even know what they mean, but I don't like, we were talking about earlier, I am a little bit of both, right? So I can go speak to thousands of people, right? And own the room, no problem. Because I'm talking about my topic, right? Something that I know I'm an expert on, and I know any question you could throw at me that I'm going to be, not only am I going to be answer it, but if you're being a wise guy, I can be a wise guy back. And I enjoy that. Like the one-liners and stuff like that, the engagement of the audience.
No way, Sergeant Major.
I mean, I teach every general and admiral, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, and Space Force, their new 1-star classes and their transition courses. And I get desk sides with the 4-stars. Mm-hmm. And so in a recent class, we had a new 1-star that I picked out of the audience. And, you know, I let them all know I'm a retired sergeant major. So if you don't answer my questions, I'm just going to stare at you awkwardly until you do. and then I ultimately have to do it. And I was working about how to craft your headline. And I'm like, you know, you right there, you know, what do you do? You know, what's your first name? And I call him by his first name. I don't remember what it is, but I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm in the Army. And I'm like, really? Like, we're talking about your professional identity. Okay. What do you do in the Army? Well, I'm a soldier. This is a general. And so I told him, I said, look, I mean, we're going to stay on this topic. And I know I'm the last class of the day. So we're going to stay on this topic until play game. He's like, I don't like social media. And I'm like, okay, I got it. You don't have to like social media. You don't have to create a profile. You don't have to do anything. All I'm asking is for you to participate in good faith, right? Right. So if somebody asks you, what do you do at an event? What are you legitimately going to answer? And he was an assistant division commander at somewhere, right? And I'm like, perfect. That's it. Don't be combative to be combative, but I wasn't going to leave until and he's surrounded by all these other generals and their spouses. And I then I moved on and he had his phone out for 10 minutes, but 15, 20 minutes later, his whole body language changed. He was leaning forward, very open, legs kind of sitting comfortably, arms on laughing, enjoying, keeping. So you got to get through to people.
Right.
So I don't know how I got on that story, but
it's interesting because that's actually a great segue about where we're about to go into after the break. But real quick, any words for your recruiter that brought you in, John L., that was smoking that we found out here?
It looks like he's smoking in that picture right there. Put that back up.
In his hand, he's got a cigarette over here, and
and he's got a beverage in the other hand somewhere. I know that.
Oh my goodness!
But no, so here's what I want to talk about. We're going to cut to commercial here after this, but we're going to talk about what you're doing now. And what I find fascinating is that my brother's intel downstairs at this conference I'm at, we had a 35 Delta. She was a lady who was 35 Delta. And then she went to the CIA and then now she's at the event. I asked her a question. It's like, how was your transition getting onto LinkedIn? And she's like, I don't really want to talk about it. I was like, exactly. And then here you are doing what you do as an intel guy. So let's get to commercial. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about how was that transition for you.
Yeah.
All right. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
You're watching the Lounge with Legends TV show with your hosts, Marty Martinez and James A. Feltz.
There it is.
I love this. I love it when you do that.
He's gonna break my dang camera.
Hey, can I ask you a question before we go? Like, I never heard of those. Is it footies or footies or footies?
Yeah, it's footies.
Footies. Do
Yeah.
they make them in jacked up army foot style?
Yes, we do, because it's a veteran-owned company, so we make sure we support all.
I mean, like really jacked up, like messed up feet. So we may have to talk offline because I never heard of them.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
Donnell's going to be carrying. Donnell's actually getting a Veterans Growing America. He's got the first veteran pop-up in Potomac Mills over by the REI, and he's gonna be carrying footies in down there and a whole bunch of other veteran owned products down there. But yeah,
all right, well, I may go test it out and say, I'll buy some if you got one that looks like my foot.
Okay.
And I got a feeling they're gonna have to put my foot on a piece of paper and outline it and say, we'll send you one.
Well, the beauty of scissors are great, Sergeant Major.
I don't know. You don't need scissors. It's not about scissors. Like, I'm a big guy. It's not just about, like, they need to have the material big enough to scissor it down and to cut the. So anyway, sorry. I thought it was highly entertaining. I like it.
No, we'll check it out. But yeah, so what's interesting is that you being coming from an Intel background and now being a LinkedIn top voice and talking about people about how to be on LinkedIn, which is like the antithesis of what you all do in the Intel world. I mean, I talked to my brother and he's just like, he's my brother. And he's like, no, I can't talk about it. I'm like, dude, we're roommates. You can tell me where you're going,
So I will share anybody that says, like, I can't talk about it, or I could tell you, but I have to, kill you stuff, isn't doing anything cool. Like, nobody that's doing anything cool says that. My coolest job that I did, people will say, why are you traveling all? I'm like, oh my God, it's so great. I do force protection surveys. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I go to bases and I ask them, have you seen any vehicles off base that look suspicious? Like, has anybody asked you any questions that aren't right? And they're like, oh, and they never asked any other questions except for, like, where are you going next? And so, like, and that was my most classified job ever. So the people that are really doing stuff, just tell a little bit something different that doesn't encourage. It's boring. It's the people that really aren't doing it that feel like they need to draw attention to themselves and say, I can't tell you anything. Like, the moment you say, I can't tell you anything, people are like, what are you trying to hide? Like, It doesn't. So anyway, I have a unique perspective on this because for about 10 to 15 years, I taught people not to use social media, right? I was a counterintelligence agent, human intelligence and senior intelligence sergeant major. So, like, everything was not social media. And I was, OPSEC and everything else. I was not on social media really. I had a Facebook page, but it was like family and friends, pictures of kids, stuff like that. Until I went to a job fair about a little less than a year before I got out. And I spent 6 hours talking to 41 employers. And I'm going to tell you, I walked in, having been through TAP, having done everything to the best of my ability, writing my resume. I can write. Writing a perfect resume, practice my elevator speech, elevator pitch, wearing my best suit, business cards, one-pagers, research on all 41 companies. I did everything they teach. You could not go any more prepared into this job fair. And I went in there and I spent 6 hours going to each employer, taking notes, writing down names. And at the end of 6 hours, I've been told 41 times to check their careers page and apply online if I saw anything. I literally watch recruiters circle my clearance, throw it on a pile, and say, best of luck. And it was a job fair where they were interviewing people. And I didn't get a single request for not a single follow-on interview, anything. And I think it was like recruiter number 40. I wish I knew who this guy was. It might have been Donnell Johns. I don't know. But, but the recruiter, it wasn't. But the recruiter said, he said, I'm nagging this guy. I'm like, come on, like, you're number 40. There's one more left. I've been told no all the times. Do you know who I am? Like, I'm a sergeant major. You know, I lead the operations for 17,000 people in 45 countries. You know, there's got to be a way to follow up. And he's like, connect with me on LinkedIn. And then he like walked to somebody else. Like, I'm not dealing with this dude. And so it's fine. I mean, I needed to hear this. And so the next day I had my list of do outs. I made my notes. I was going through it. You know, I was demoralized, and rightfully so, because there is no job for someone that leads operations of 17,000 people in 45 countries. Like, that job doesn't exist in the private sector, and you're sure as heck not finding somebody hiring for that job at a job fair.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of them was connected me on LinkedIn. I'm like, well, let's see this LinkedIn thing out. And I got on and I was like, okay, I got to create a profile. And then I started reading articles and I connected with him and a bunch of others. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is the key. This is the networking tool I need. It's something that I need to, because I realized I needed help. Like, I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. I needed people to help me navigate the process. Like, my elevator pitch sucked. So I needed, you know, I've been told that like 6 times the night prior. But I also needed people where I wanted to go, you know, people to open doors. And then I realized I needed to tell people who I was. Like, they need to know more than what's on this resume. Right. And so I saw it, you know, honestly, it was like the Matrix, you know, the red pill, the blue pill, you know, I went into the Matrix, I took the right pill. I don't know which one it is. I think it's a blue pill. Right. And like, I could see, you know, the symbols, like LinkedIn has made sense to me, because what it has enabled me to do is turn the framework of what I did as an Intel professional, going overseas and making friends with people. I'm able to do that digitally now and at scale, right? Everything I did as an Intel professional, I can now do at scale. And the beauty of it is so I teach all the generals and admirals, and I tell you the story about the general. I mean, he was all in by the end. You just have to get people past that feeling of discomfort, right? I get, you know, I had one with the G2 of the Army like a year and a half ago, and he's like, my people say this, and I'm like, how do your people know they're not on social media?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What enemy is? I'm like, then why aren't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If the enemy's on, like, so, and I have to tell people, again, you control what you release, right? So for the generals, the admirals that have, like, I'm not comfortable putting myself out there on LinkedIn, I go to Google and I type in their name and bio, and I pull up their whole bio. Here you go. There's the name of your kids, right? Like, here's every assignment you've had, every award, every school, where you graduated from, what you do now. Like, how is that different than a LinkedIn profile?
Right.
And so I'm like, it's out there. So, you know, create this profile and share what you want to share. And for a lot of them, I'm like, if you don't have a voice, if you don't plant your flag, then somebody else will.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody else will create a profile, because there's nothing to say it's not the right one. And somebody else will, and it happens. And I will tell you, unlike the other platforms, which can be, I know you're broadcasting some of them, but sometimes they can be dumpster fires.
Yep.
You know, they're not doing a great job of getting rid of fake accounts. You know, whole social media teams doing that for senior leaders in the military. I haven't seen that on LinkedIn. Like, they've really done a great job of trust and safety and getting rid of fake accounts. And so when I talk to the Intel professionals, when I talk to anybody, I'm like, 95% of the Fortune 500 are recruiting on LinkedIn. Obviously, it's the difference between LinkedIn and the other platforms is they have the revenue coming in from the LinkedIn recruiter seats and all the other things that they sell, whereas the other ones get it from advertisements, right? So I think that business model lends more to this trust and safety piece. But I tell people, you know, create a profile that's good enough. Even if you just put the stuff that's on your bio or the basic information, you know, headline, background image, nice photo with a smile, don't look like a killer, or that you're pissed off. And then, like, basic information, put a little bit of effort in, like 30 minutes, you're good. It's got to be good enough to give you credibility. And then I tell them, connect where you want connections, and don't do it when you need something now.
Right.
Do it where you plan to go.
Right.
And then share the things you're comfortable sharing. Right. And a lot of it could be simple photos of what you love about the military, you know, photos of meeting with friends. You know, I tell people anything that you would be comfortable talking to everyone in the office about, everyone in your organization about, you can share. So if it's my kid won a sports game this weekend, if I tried a new bourbon, you know, if I travel, like those things are all free game, because the personal stuff along with the professional actually gives people something to feel a connection to. Like you guys, the way you dress, like I attribute that to you guys, that flair, you know, that style, and that's personal. And because you share that, it builds that connection. I just am not good. I went to talk to someone to help me pick out clothes yesterday, so it's coming. So maybe the next one you invite me, I'll wear it. But I mean, at the end of the day, what LinkedIn allows you to do, and what social media in general allows you to do, is to share who you are and build a community, right?
Yeah.
I am very unapologetically me on social media. Sometimes the old Sergeant Major comes out, because if somebody says something stupid, I will say, well, that's stupid. Like, you know, and you know, that's me. And people are like, wow, he's a retired Sergeant Major. They always talk like that. So I get away with it, but there are people that don't like me. And that's okay. I don't want to be liked by everybody. I want to build my community of people that value me for who I am, that I value for what they are and who they are and what we all bring to one another. And so if we're passionate about the same things, if we share some same experiences, you know, if our content resonates with one another, then we should be in the same network, and let's see where it goes, right? And so that's what I kind of teach and really have been engaged about, is getting people to share more about what they're doing, because there's a lot of opportunities out there in the private sector, but no one's ever going to think about your name for a job unless you're engaging enough, right? So like if I have a job and I go to my team, I say, who do you know? The names that come up are the people they know. And if you're not building relationships, if you're not sharing content, your name will never be in the conversation. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense. I mean, just think of the company HireMilitary. If somebody says HireMilitary, the next word out of their mouth is Mike Quinn. I mean, that's just is what it is. I mean,
yeah, and I'll share with you. So we're at 340,000 followers. We've never paid to promote content. We've not spent any money on marketing collateral or anything else like that. That's just our team sharing. And so, and about a year ago, when we brought Olivia Perez-Breland on board to run the page, the idea was it couldn't just be Mike Quinn, right? It needed to be more than me. You know, if it's just me, then the people that don't like me, you know, like, you want to be more encompassing. So it's Olivia, it's Lucy, it's Brandy, it's Matt, you know, it's Tim Cochran, it's, you know, Kadeen, it's Kate, it's Amber, like, they're all active. And, you know, we had our, we do a weekly hot jobs session every Tuesday at 2. And I signed on, and there was 250 people watching it live. Wow. You know, and thousands watching it not live. Right. So it's grown. The HireMilitary page has outstripped me from a follower standpoint, because the whole team's engaged. Right. Yeah. And if you trust Lucy, you trust HireMilitary, even if you don't like me, right? If you trust, you know, Matt, you know, because he has great hair, you know, and he's a Marine, you know, and you don't even know me, you trust HireMilitary, right? So ultimately, when we talk about social media, LinkedIn, everything else from a company standpoint, I will tell people that the traditional marketing methods, where you focus on the company controlling the brand, and I saw this at some of the other companies I worked at, we got to control the brand, which to them was the symbol has to be used exactly this way, and we're only going to put out content from our company page, right? Now, nobody looks at that stuff anymore. It's an advertisement. Now it's, what do the people you trust say about it, right? And that's where the value is starting to shift, I think, from a marketing standpoint. So, sorry, that's my I took it sideways again.
No, it's actually brilliant. I mean, and we love, and I would say part of the marketing from an individual perspective, as you're getting out, what do you say to the people where you're like, you know, like Casey West is getting out, one of my former NCOs here, and he still has the DA photo for his LinkedIn page, and he's looking for a job. You know, what's the first thing you tell him for these kind of people?
Put in some work. I mean, ultimately, what are you trying to project? One of the most important things to consider is not what you think you're putting out. It's what perception is on the other side, right?
Right.
So, you know, at the very least, did you put in, like, you don't want a DA photo. Uniform's fine, but there should be something looking like a smile on your face. In my classes, I show a side-by-side of Neil Moore, retired Army senior NCO, with the photo he had, which was the typical, right, DA photo. And the other one is when I told him WTF and blasted him on LinkedIn, like, I told you 3 times to change your damn photo. And it was what he looked like all the other times, which was like, you know, like a good smile. He was electric. And he changed his photo, and within 2 weeks had 3 job offers just by changing his photo. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
And so, right?
Absolutely. It's your own marketing. It's how you present yourself. And that's what James and we talk about. We teach a course, you know, personal branding and authority marketing. It's about how you treat yourself and project, and what are you saying, and having your elevator pitch down, where it's not necessarily, one of the things we talk about is stop leading with the title, because that can change in an instant. Lead with value, and lead with the, you know, what you're going to be able to contribute to a future organization or to a future employer. Yep. And so, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. And then Mr. Jones here talking about Portraits for Patriots gives free. I did not know that. That's pretty cool. So we'll definitely check that out. And then we got trash talk coming in from the Navy, Navy intel at that. So we'll just erase that message after this. But but so I think we're getting to that time where we need to ask the question, our freedoms means question.
Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about HireMilitary real quick. Do you mind?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So just so people understand, this is not about, when we talk about branding, it's not just about marketing yourself for a job, right? It applies to everything: business opportunities, careers, starting your own business. I know you guys get this. So, you know, I started HireMilitary on an idea and invested all my savings to build the website and all the other stuff. Wish I would have known you guys, you know, back then. But it was before I was like big on LinkedIn and everything else like that. But, you know, and I bootstrapped it for years while I was doing my other career. So I worked those hours on additional to my other time. But, you know, the idea on HireMilitary started was helping service members find meaningful careers. And it started with DoD SkillBridge, right? So DoD SkillBridge program lets service members in the last 180 days to do full-time internships, apprenticeships, OJT, job shadow, fellowships at companies. And what I found is that there weren't enough companies for every soldier that wanted to do it. And I'd say soldier because it started with soldiers, but expanded to service members.
Right.
And then there weren't enough service members that knew how to take advantage of the program. And so we started with SkillBridge, connecting service members with employers, and we expanded over the years to direct placement, because we realized we were only helping about 10% of the force. And so we wanted to help all veterans as much as possible. Military spouses, the most economically disadvantaged group in the country, 35% unemployment during the pandemic. And then the service members that couldn't do SkillBridge. So we moved to direct placement, temp to perm. So now we've got partnerships with a whole bunch of Fortune 500 companies, and you know, just signed some really big ones, and about 130 companies in general that we're helping connect service members, veterans, military spouses with employment. And that's one of our core components. Now, the other things we do is we do training. So I talked to you, I train every general, every admiral, you know, multiple times in their career now. We speak at units. We're helping some units build their, you know, social media education, training and education programs. But we've also done private sector work. So we train a multi-billion-dollar company how to stop just doing it here and get everyone to engage on social media. And then the last part is government contracting. which I think a lot of people don't understand. As a service disabled veteran, there is a market, right? So large defense contractors have SDVOSB, service disabled veteran and small business requirements that they have to have on their teams. They need them to build out, 20% of the work, whatever has to go to a minority disability, 8A business concern. And so to be able to do some government contracting as well, really diversifies our portfolio, which is necessary in today's world. You never know where things are going. But the beauty of this, and this is what I'm going to share with people, is our first full year where we actually weren't 1099, we did 7 figures in our first full year in business, because we didn't have to hunt business. Once people trusted me, over the years, they built trust in the brand and they came to us. Or when we made a call, they're like, "Oh, Mike, I've seen you on LinkedIn for years. We love what you do. Tell us more." And so it was never easy. Let's get that straight. There's a lot that goes into a business people don't realize. Like when you want to do business with a company and you realize that the cost of doing business is $20,000 worth of insurance, right?
Wow.
Or payroll or taxes or HRIS systems, applicant tracking systems, SOPs, policies, invoicing, accounts receivable, accounts payable. I go shifting to teams, sending everybody laptops, cyber, secure, the what comes into building a business is huge. And so the only other thing I'll say to people that are looking to really launch their own business is, again, it comes down to community. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Right.
So you have to surround yourself with people that do. And so that was the big thing about, building a successful business, was finding people and that align with your values, that are high performers, but that also bring the skill sets that you lack.
Right.
So I know that's a little segue, but you want to get the question,
and
but
in the banner, this is where they can find you. HireMilitary.us /S.
And they don't even need the /S. We just also spent a lot of money to shift to Salesforce, and that's where our stuff's getting hosted. So there's data rules, right? You want to know, you need a CRM tool to manage, all the people that are reaching out, make sure that you get contacted, know the status, everything, run reports. I mean, it's amazing, but if you want to scale, you've got to do all this stuff. You can't run a business on an Excel spreadsheet.
No, you're absolutely right. We talked about that. We talk about that all the time with our entrepreneurs. We do digital marketing at JTF 214, but we do business acceleration. We meet them where they're at, because people will come to you literally at the Post-it note stage. Yeah. And so we're telling them, okay, we're doing this, but you got to get into a CRM soon. And they're not that, like HubSpot, $49 a month for the starter package.
You don't want to know what Salesforce costs.
Salesforce has, they've got, but that's, but they've got everyone's got a starter package.
Yeah.
The point is, get into something, because you're right. The Excel spreadsheet isn't going to allow you to keep following up with everybody. Automate, delegate, eliminate all the tasks that you just can't handle. And that's the key to entrepreneurship.
And I will tell people, people see this now and they're like, I'm going to go do that. Like, they have the life, they're making all this money, all that. They don't see anything below the tip of the iceberg, right?
Right.
And what I share people is, that say they want to be an entrepreneur, is the fact that you've got to be willing to risk, right? So I had an idea. I talked about it with friends, mentors, colleagues. They said, yeah, we think that could work. And then I invested every cent of my savings and every dollar we brought in for 3 years, just to get it to a point where it could become profitable with all the work on my side.
Yep.
And there was no guarantee it was ever going to be profitable. And so, I tell people, entrepreneurship's not for everybody. It definitely has to be something that you're passionate about, so that you can weather those gaps, that you can struggle through those things and stick with it. Because Jesse Smith, 5-time Olympian, shared a thing the other day where he was in high school, his senior year, and he plays water polo, and so he had to drive 2 hours to these practices, and he was about halfway through, and he was about to quit. He's like, I'm done. Like, I'm getting beat up. I'm not winning. Like, da 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 da. And his dad said, look, you said you were going to commit to this for a year. Like, see it through to the year and see what happens.
Right.
And, he pushed through that barrier and got selected for the team and ended up being in 5 Olympics. So, but you have to be able to, you got to get past that first set of blockers to find it.
And we give up on our dreams sometimes, and we're so close we just don't realize it. Because we talk to so many veterans, we equate it to the land nav course. You're almost at that red and orange thing, and unfortunately James is not there with the canteen cup going ding ding ding, I'm over here, dummy, and there's Marty going, oh, it's right here. What I don't realize is sometimes is James a whack job and it's not even the right point. But
it's the right point for me.
But you gotta go, and you gotta surround yourself with people. And I think, right here, you can't create everything alone. You got to have the team. You got to find accountability partners. And that's one of those things that, like we just talked about last episode with Bunker Labs. And what we loved with Bunker Labs was every week we were meeting with people saying, well, last week Mike, you said last week you were going to do this, man. How'd you do? Did you launch your new TikTok page? I said I was going to do TikTok. Why would I say that? But that's what you said. So, but the point is,
I'm not doing TikTok.
I'm kidding.
Wait, you said it here first, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm not doing it. They asked me to do it. I said, I'm not putting it on my phone. I am still an Intel professional. So, I'm not putting TikTok on my phone. If somebody from my team wants me on TikTok, they can create a page and manage it for me. I'm happy to record and send videos, but, this is my platform. And I've started sharing with my Facebook crowd as well, which some people, I have a sergeant major community now and stuff like that. But yeah, no TikTok for me.
The point was, if you said you were going to do something, there's somebody there. Last week you said you were going to do this, which is needed a lot of times. But so what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to the Freedom Means moment, which is brought by A-Rod Salute to Suits, where you can get 1 suit, 2 jackets, or 1 suit, 2 shirts, 2 ties, 2 pocket squares for $275. And A-Rod does an amazing job of looking at you, doing a wardrobe assessment, a size assessment, and getting it out to you in a week. It's absolutely amazing. Wow. And we thank him for being our sponsor and for making us look so sharp. At this time, what we're going to say is Mike, Quinn, you've done so much for our country, both in service and now out of service with our veterans, and having served and sacrificed for so much. What does freedom mean to you?
Yeah. So, when it comes to freedom, I spent 18 years overseas, and I saw what other countries are like, right? I saw that some people had no chance of ever having opportunity. I saw what brutality was. I saw what inequality was in a lot of ways. I saw crime and some of that stuff exists here in our country. But I will tell you that there's no other country in the world where anybody can work hard enough and find whatever success they're willing to go get. Our country has its challenges right now. But we have the ability to have those conversations and those challenges and the open opportunities to discuss it or not discuss it, everything else, because of our freedom. And so, I look at what I've been able to do, and I was not born rich. I was born poor in a bad neighborhood of Philadelphia. And, I had the freedom to join the Army, and I had the ability to grow through the ranks. And through what LinkedIn has given me, the access to opportunity, the freedom to build networks and connect with people. I've had meals with C-suite leaders of Fortune 500 companies. I've sat on the floor at the, Washington Wizards games, because somebody gave me tickets. I've been to these events. I've had these opportunities to travel and impact so many lives and share what worked for me with others. And so that's really what freedom comes to me, is that it's not perfect, but we have the freedom to disagree with one another, because our nation's soldiers have been out protecting our country. So that's what freedom means to me. And I don't mean just soldiers. Our military is putting themselves in harm's way to protect the liberties and the freedom that we hold dear.
I appreciate that. And it's a great answer. I love it. Definitely heartfelt. I mean, you can feel that coming through you, and I appreciate that. Thanks for all you've done and everything you are doing, and thanks for building such a great team that gives back so much for us. And you helped me through my journey as I went through, whether you realize it or not. Those moments. Those moments at Bar Louie, and then meeting you at AUSA and having the conversations. I still got the pictures, but we appreciate it. And, as the comments are saying here, thank you for the great conversation. Thanks for the great show. The comments are here. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Go check out Michael Quinn on LinkedIn, follow him, get your knowledge on, because he does so much for everybody. You don't even have to necessarily just be a veteran who's going through. If you really want to master and learn about LinkedIn, check out HireMilitary, check out Michael Quinn on LinkedIn. So appreciate it. James, any parting words?
No, just thank you so much for being here, being the legend, and thank you for what you do and continue to do.
No, thank you both. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks to Donnell for recruiting you in the Army, as we just found out today.
I want a drink.
All right, we're going to put you in the green room real quick and close out the show. Stand by. All right, James, again, amazing. What a fun episode.
Yeah, just the great things that he's doing with HireMilitary. Just amazing. But yeah, and then the networking, that big piece with the networking.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing. Next week we're going to start bringing on some of the Bunker Labs graduates.
Is it? Are we going Army and Air Force? I think there's a dual hatted there. Is there or no?
I don't know. We'll keep it as a surprise, but
okay.
We're looking forward to it. I do believe that we might have Air Force coming on, but let's just close out the show, and you'll find out next week who's coming on. But it is Bunker Labs alum. I do know that. So
well, be safe. I'm tracking. Be safe. Your flight back to DC, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks. And thanks to our legend this week, Mike Quinn, CEO of HireMilitary, and for everything he's doing. And we'll see you all next week. Everyone be safe out there, y'all.
You've been watching the Lounge with Legend show, countering the narrative that veterans are all broken misfit toys. Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom. Serving in harsh situations, coupled with their training, have forged them into some of the most resilient and capable leaders in the world. And that's where we come in, celebrating the success stories, taking you on a journey of transformation from military to business. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But find us on Facebook at Lounge with Legend or at JTF214. Till next time.